For anyone who'd grown up with the fun, spiky punk rock of Fat Lip and In Too Deep,
Faster we're falling, we're stopping and stalling, we're running in circles.
this was a harrowing image to see. Sum 41 frontman Deryck Whibley, the face and the voice behind some of the best-loved tunes of a generation, lying emaciated in a hospital bed, clinging to life. The outlook was bleak. One more drink, doctors said, and that would be it. He'd be dead. For Deryck, still only in his early 30s, there was a stark choice to make. Either he'd have to change his behavior, his mental health, his whole lifestyle, or, well, the alternative doesn't bear thinking about. Today we are going to be looking at Deryck Whibley's journey to the very edge, and his difficult journey to recovery. Before there was Sum 41, there was Casper. The band formed by Deryck Whibley and Grant McVitie was more grunge and alt-rock influenced than punk rock. But after Steve Jocks replaced McVitie, the band became increasingly punk-focused. NoFX in particular was a big influence. But the guys quickly figured out that they wanted to do a bit more than just ape Fat Mike for the rest of their lives. Sum 41 began trying new things. With Richard Roy on bass and Dave Baksh on guitar, the guys started mixing elements of metal, pop-punk, and skate-punk into their tunes. They swiftly developed a sound all their own. From their base in Ajax, Ontario, they did what any self-respecting punk band would do in their position. They played every damn show they could find. The story almost ended horribly though. A major auto accident left the band seriously shook up, and was very nearly fatal. Roy called it quits as a result, and so they brought in Jason McCaslin. The classic Sum 41 lineup was born. The band's hard work quickly paid off. Their demo, Half Hour to Power, plus a slot supporting Len, caught the attention of Island Records. The major label signed the guys in 1999, and that demo became the group's debut EP release. Still rough around the edges, the raw sound of their debut release really set the tone for the buzzsaw punk rock they would become known for. And there was smart humor too, not to mention bags of energy. If you had the Half Hour of Power EP first time around, then congratulations. You're way cooler than me. For most of us, 2001's platinum-selling All Killer, No Filler was the big introduction to the four dudes from Ontario. And what an introduction it was, too. Singles like Fat Lip and In Too Deep offered raw-edged pop-punk that won the band legions of fans across the world. Combining adolescent humor with spiky punk rock melody, Sum 41 stood apart as leaders of that early 2000s scene. And then there was Pain for Pleasure, the metal-tinged album closer that Steve Jocks claimed to have written in 10 minutes while on the toilet. They might have been four punk kids, but they still loved their heavy metal. The following year, the boys were back with their second album, Does This Look Infected? Darker in tone and grittier and heavier, the follow-up LP was a huge hit with fans and critics alike. The world of Does This Look Infected was different from that of All Killer No Filler. It was post 9/11, things were dark and dangerous, and the second record reflected that. Sum 41 could still have some fun, but the humor had become more cynical and satirical. Way more than just another snotty pop-punk band, releases like Still Waiting and The Hell Song showed that Sum 41 was ready to become the soundtrack for these anxious, uncertain times. They may have been stars, and they may have known how to party, but Sum 41 were never going to shy away from confronting real global issues head-on. In 2004, they headed to the Democratic Republic of Congo with War Child Canada to film a documentary highlighting the plight of the Congolese people. While in the DRC, the realities of the conflict became horrifyingly clear. As fighting broke out around the band's hotel in Bukavu in the east of the country, Sum 41 found themselves holed up with around 43 other people in McCaslin's room. The shooting was all around us, and all these people were waiting, probably to die, Steve Jocks would recall. After an interminable wait, during which Whibley remembers thinking, this is it. This is how we're gonna die. UN armored personnel carriers arrived to take the trapped civilians to safety. The band may have escaped the DRC with their lives, but what they saw and experienced there would stay with them forever. Third album, Chuck, was already recorded when the band visited the DRC, but the group decided to name the record in honor of Charles Chuck Pelletier, the UN peacekeeper who had saved their lives, and received a Medal of Bravery for his actions in Bukavu. Chuck was heavier and more introspective than anything that had gone before. The melodic hardcore of Refused and the more robust sound of Metallica had replaced NoFX among the band's influences. The intensity of tracks like We're All to Blame and Pieces demonstrated the band's maturity, worlds away from their party-oriented skate punk beginnings. Sum 41's first 3 full lengths had come in a furious few years of touring and recording, and now the cracks were beginning to show. Dave Batch, always the group's biggest metalhead, wanted to explore new territories with his music, and clashed with Whibley over the band's direction. In 2006, Batch left the band, citing creative differences and burnout. Batch had been such a pillar of the group since those early days, and his departure took its toll. Whibley took on a much greater role in terms of songwriting and production, but the increased pressure led to personal struggles, not least with alcohol. Drinking, which had been such a big part of the band's fun-loving, hell-raising early output, was turning into a real crutch for the singer. After years on the road and the trauma of what the band had witnessed in the DRC, Whibley's self-medication through alcohol would become an increasing problem. 2007's Underclass Hero was as close to a Deryck Whibley solo album as we ever got. With Batch gone, the frontman basically wrote, composed, and produced everything himself. Old friends Jocks and McCaslin became little more than session musicians, and the strained dynamic really comes across on that record. Bitter and angry as the record was, with Whibley railing against the music industry and the US government, something which nearly got him deported, it was still a hit. The million-selling album proved that, while times were tough, Sum 41's fans stood by them. The Canadian pop-punk power couple of the mid-noughties, Deryck Whibley and Avril Lavigne, married in 2006. Lavigne was by Whibley's side as he took on all responsibilities on the Underclass Hero record, but their romance would not last. Creative struggles and alcohol abuse will take their toll on any marriage. For Whibley and Lavigne, though, it was even worse. Smash hit single Girlfriend had seen Avril Lavigne surging back into the limelight, and this meant press attention. A lot of press attention. Whibley would later talk quite candidly about press intrusion into the couple's relationship. "It became not about the music. It was my private life and gossip," he said. And it was constant. You can imagine it was overwhelming. With the media spotlight firmly on the couple, and with so much pressure on Whibley to make a great record essentially all by himself, it all proved too much. The pair wound up separating in 2009 and divorced the following year. This was a huge blow to Whibley, already in a fragile state. And when internal struggles began to fracture Sum 41, the frontman found himself staring into the abyss. 2010 was a rough year for Deryck Whibley. With his marriage falling apart and his relationship with his bandmates and best friends on the rocks, Whibley began relying on alcohol like never before. Around 2010 and 2011, the band started to implode a little bit, Whibley said. "My drinking was bad. Everyone's drinking was bad. It was drunks getting mad at other drunks for drinking too much." The alcohol-fueled resentment and anger between bandmates had ripped Sum 41 apart, but it was Whibley's own health that was suffering the most. He would later say he couldn't function without drinking, and would even get the shakes, a sign of severe alcohol dependency. There were other issues too. A slipped disc while performing in 2007 had left Whibley with chronic back pain. While on tour in Japan in 2010, Whibley was jumped by 3 guys in a bar, damaging the singer's back once again. Sum 41 completed the tour against doctor's orders, but the extreme pain in his back, coupled with anxiety and mental health issues, made Whibley's drinking even worse. April 2014. Deryck Whibley has a new fiancée, model Ariana Cooper. This should be a joyous and optimistic time, maybe the chance to turn over a new leaf. But things are about to get dark. Real dark. It's Ariana who hears her fiancé fall. She rushes into the kitchen, where she finds Whibley collapsed, the drink he was holding spilling onto the floor. In a panic, she calls for an ambulance. Somehow, Whibley is still alive, but the diagnosis is bad. His liver and kidneys have failed, the years of drinking finally catching up with him. Jaundiced and emaciated in his hospital bed, he receives the shocking assessment from his doctors. Just one more drink could kill you. It was so nearly all over, but Whibley had been given another chance. He grabbed that chance with both hands. Nearly sober and committed to physical therapy, Whibley was able to get back on his feet. In August 2015, looking much happier and healthier than he had for years, Whibley married Ariana in a ceremony in Los Angeles. That same month, Sum 41 announced that Dave Batch was rejoining the band, and a new album was on the way. 13 Voices symbolizes everything the band and Whibley had been through. Released in 2016, the record deals with the heavy themes of addiction and self-destruction, but remains positive and somehow uplifting. The message to fans was clear. No matter how bad things get, no matter how dark and alone you feel, there is always hope. Fake My Own Death is a stark example of what we're talking about here. Whibley had stared death in the face for real on that grim night in 2014. But here, he sings about breaking from the past, drawing a line under those dark times, and coming back as someone fresh and new. Touring the record, the band showed that they were revitalized, more energetic than ever. They'd been to the very brink, and now they were coming back. For Sum 41, coming back didn't just mean knocking out another record and picking up a fast paycheck. They gave their all to the recording of Order in Decline, their 7th studio album released in 2019. Out for Blood is heavy, threading the needle between punk and metal with fuzzy riffage and real snarl and bite. A Death in the Family incorporates hardcore elements with rolling drums and thrilling breakdowns. Then Never There does a total about-face, with intricate piano and introspective vocals that tug at the heartstrings. A record of startling maturity, the whole thing is woven together by a familiar set of themes: survival, resilience, and a desire to do more and be better. But releasing the record was only half the job. Now they need to tour it. So Sum 41 got out on the road, playing their new tracks to audiences who lapped them up, and dropping some of the old favorites in there, showcasing the full power of their body of work. Deryck Whibley had evolved into a new artist and a new man. He'd been the bratty punk kid, and he'd been the tortured musician just a whisker away from death. Now he was a mentor, showing up-and-coming bands the way forward in a difficult industry. It's now more than 10 years since Whibley's fiancée found him almost lifeless on the kitchen floor, and it's more than 20 since the harrowing experience in Bukavu. Deryck and Ariana are parents, and this newfound set of responsibilities and emotions has added new depth to Whibley's lyrical output. There's positivity where once there was only anxiety and booze. Those experiences, those years lost to alcohol, those hours spent staring death in the face in the DRC, have never left Deryck Whibley. How could they? They've become so formative, so influential to his art and to his life. But he is reflective and philosophical these days, rather than desperate, rather than scared. In 2024, Sum 41 announced a massive world tour. This global celebration highlights the enduring popularity of the 4 kids from Ontario, the strength of their back catalog, and their ability to survive against all the odds. Maybe survive is the wrong word. They've done more than survive. They've endured it all, and they've come back stronger than ever. Thanks for joining me on this one. It's been a wild ride, but it's ending on a positive note. As always, hit me up with suggestions for who to cover on future videos. And stay tuned for another pop-punk deep dive, coming right up.